Hi everyone, I'm Sandy and welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to share my February reading wrap up with you, talk about the books I finished, the books that I didn't finish, and a little bit of an update for my plans in March. So for February, I had a really great reading month. I had started with the smallest TBR possible, and then of course it grew with the BookTube Prize, and then grew again with Wasted Weekend and the TBR Tackle. And of course, I didn't get to quite everything that I wanted to, but I did have a ultimately a very successful reading month. Not because of a number of books, but because of the mix of books, the quality of the books, and the buddy reads that I was able to do in February. Absolutely incredible. I had so much fun. All right, so what did I end up actually reading in February? So my 1001 book club pick is, of course, A Fine Balance by Rohinton Mistry. I have a video about this one out already. 5-star read, still thinking about it, still loving everything about these characters. And yeah, I think this book is going to stick with me for quite a while, but I did finish this one. My other 1001 book that I read from the book 1001 book countdown was, of course, Pere, this beautiful edition, and it is also in the same video as A Fine Balance is in, actually. Those are the only two books that I officially read in February for the 1001 book countdown. I had one more that I read in January, which was The Drowned World by J.G. Ballard. So I am a little behind, definitely a little behind on the 1001 book countdown for 2023. But you know what? I'm still loving everything that I'm reading. So I'm gonna keep going with the pace I've been kind of doing. So outside of that, for the BookTube Prize, of course, have 6 nonfiction books. In February, I finished 3 and almost 2/3 of a 4th, and then started the 5th. And I still have G-Man sitting over here. You can see it. It's right here on my shelf that I haven't picked up yet. So I have a fair amount of BookTube Prize books still to read, but I'm okay with where I'm at with that as well. And so, yeah, I think February, like I said, was really, really good. So the other stuff that I read in February, I did my subscriber favorites, which I'm still loving that project, and I read Tigana by Guy Gavriel Kay, and this was a subscriber favorite from Stacy V. So thank you so much, Stacy. This book was originally published in 1990 and is a fantasy novel. If you watch my channel, know I don't read a lot of fantasy. There were aspects of this book that I loved. I loved kind of the whole thing around Tigana and what it is, which I'm not going to share because it's a major spoiler. I loved that aspect of this book. I thought that there were some characters in it that were really interesting. The story itself was really interesting. I did this as a buddy read with Dia from Novel Idea, Gemma from Gemma Books, Jack over at Spread Book Joy, and myself. The 4 of us did this as a buddy read, and it was so much fun getting to chat with these lovely, lovely ladies every single day about this particular book. But I have to say that only 2 of the 4 of us actually finished this book, and there's a very specific reason why. The story in the first 5 chapters is really, really strong, and in the last 5 chapters is very, very strong. However, oh boy, Guy Gavriel Kay has decided in this book to include a lot of gratuitous, unnecessary sex. And it's not necessarily the sex that is the problem. It's the kind of how it's represented in here. It's just, and how women are represented. Every time we came across a really strong, interesting female character, the next thing we knew, she was having sex with someone for no apparent reason. It was just thrown into the story and written in a way that wasn't very appealing necessarily to me as a woman. So I struggled with that. There were some instances of it in here. It's like, okay, that really does fit the story, and I get it. I understand that. Yeah. That part I really appreciated those aspects, but there were some that was like, there was no reason for the incest that's in this book. There is no reason for, something that ended up being called the sex in the cupboard girl and the revelation that happened after that. It's like, why Guy Gavriel Kay? And then I think there was a very big breaking point for two of us. I finished the book, by the way, for two of the readers in this buddy group that was like, no, I'm done. And I understand, I do. What's really sad is the last 5 chapters of this book are phenomenal and are action packed, and so much is resolved in the last 5 chapters. But Guy Gavriel Kay spent 15 chapters kind of not wasting my time. First 5 were good. Next 10 chapters kind of like very slow moving. And then the last 5 chapters, which were phenomenal. I did say a number of times in our buddy read that it felt like this was the first of a trilogy, because it took its time to meander to those last 5 chapters, and then everything's crammed in those last 5. That's the part that I struggled with. But it was a fun read if you can get away from or get by all of the random sex for no reason stuff. The rest of the story was really interesting. Some of the characters and how they interact were interesting. I was in the head of a young man a little bit too much in this book. I think 2 people are going on to read another fantasy book that maybe is written by a different author, and I wish I had time to join them, but unfortunately, I just don't in March. If you've seen my TBR, it's not going to happen in March. But this was my subscriber favorite. So thank you again, Stacy. I really do appreciate it, because I love getting to do this as a buddy read, and I love learning about or reading new authors and new books, and this was definitely that. So I really do appreciate it, Stacy. Thank you so much. All right, so the next book was my nonfiction read, which for health in the body, which is what I'm focusing on primarily this year. And I read The Effort Diet by Carolyn Dooner. Eating Should Be Easy. I have a dedicated video to this book as well. And there were some things I really liked about this book, and some things I didn't like about this book, and some things that didn't feel like they appealed to me, and some things that did definitely appeal to me. I had said in my individual or my single review that it feels like this book is written backwards for me. It starts with the physical part and then moves to the mental part. For me, I need the mental part more right now than I need the physical part. And so I think if it would have been flip-flopped, it would have been probably more, I would have been more receptive to some of the things in here, but I have a lot of tabs. I'm doing this as a buddy read. I did this as a buddy read with Amanda from My Reading and Writing Life, and it has been wonderful to get to chat with her. We've started our next book in the series of my healthy reading series. So we started that actually right on the 1st, and that's been going really well as well so far. And it's all about self-love. But this one was all about just not worrying about what you eat, just eating normally. And I don't know if I still know exactly what eating normally means to me. So, but there are some great exercises in this that I think were really, really impactful. The next thing, as far as that was my official original February TBR. We added the book 2 prize books, and then Ollie over at Criminali hosted the Wasted Weekend, which I did end up participating in, which was great. I ended up picking up and reading Mr. Wrong Number by Lynn Painter, which is a contemporary romance novel where the lovely girl in this ends up getting a text that just basically says, "What are you wearing?" which is kind of creepy, and then quickly transitions from that. And it was a lot of fun, if not predictable in a lot of ways, but I did enjoy the interactions between these two, and the formatting of like the texting back and forth was not off-putting to me. It didn't pull me out of the story, which sometimes that can do. But this particular one didn't do that. I really had a good time just letting go and reading this one as part of my Wasted Weekend. And yeah, I think it was a good decision. I'd just come off of reading, this was quite a while ago now, just finished reading Middlemarch and was getting ready to tackle A Fine Balance, or I had started A Fine Balance when this happened. And so it was a good break, definitely, from those other books. But Mr. Wrong Number, would I recommend it if you want a fun, lighthearted, semi-believable contemporary romance featuring young adult college level or slightly out of college students. I do identify with the main character a little bit in this because she's kind of a disaster and well-meaning, but everything just kind of seems to go wrong for her. Like if there's a vase to knock over, I'm going to end up knocking it over. And she was very much kind of that character, which I thought was really well done and very funny. Lots of fun in this particular one, and not actually a lot of sex in it either, which was an interesting choice for a romance novel. There, of course, is some, but not horrible. There was actually more sex, I think, in Tigana than this one. All right. The next book that I had picked up for the wasted weekend is Manhunt by Gretchen Felker-Martin, and I didn't get to it. I tried. I opened and read the first page and got to a line that I was like, no, this is not going to be for me right now. So unfortunately, Manhunt will go back on the shelf for a future, maybe August. Maybe this is a great one to take camping. I don't know. We'll see. This is the second time I've had this on a TBR and haven't quite made it. I want to read it. I do. But horror is not my go-to genre, and I was in the mood for a fun romance, but I wasn't really in the mood for this one this weekend. So sadly, it's going back on the shelf. And the last book was for the TBR Spin, the TBR Tackle, that's hosted by the Book Bully and Freshly Read Books. And the book, the prompt for this month was to select the book that is the lowest rated. And for me, that is Candy House by Jennifer Egan. This is the same author of the Pulitzer Prize winning book, A Visit from the Goon Squad, which I read a number of years ago. I didn't go back and reread the Goon Squad before reading this particular book. I don't know if that's a mistake or not. There were parts of this particular book that I loved. I loved the idea of being able to download memories and be able to watch them, though I don't know that I ever want to relive definitely some of my memories. It wasn't like I could say, I only want to download some. You would have to download everything. I think that idea of a shared consciousness and being able to view someone else's memories as well is a fascinating idea. And then it transitions to like a barely related character sometime, and then it did that part, and then it would transition to another kind of barely related character, and I didn't love that part. It also has a couple of different sections in here where in one part it looks like this, which are a bunch of very random thoughts, and it pulled me out of any concept of any story. And for me, that was very off-putting. The other part in here that really I had a hard time with was he was speaking like Mr. Wrong Number when they were texting back and forth, and I was able to stay in the story. And this one, it's formatted like this, like emails kind of back and forth. And I really had a hard time with that. So, I mean, I'm glad I read it. I'm glad I'm done with it. But the Candy House, it wasn't my favorite. I'm sad to say. I wanted to have it be a 4 or 5 star read, and it just didn't happen. It ended up being more of about a 2.5, 3 star. On Goodreads, this is, I think, 3.4 or something like that. And I would say I'm pretty close to that overall rating. I do have to say, though, that this cover, oh, so pretty. Absolutely pretty. Yeah, I think this is a beautifully done cover. I also like the explanation of the title and the Candy House, which I won't talk about. But yeah, interesting book. I wouldn't say I would recommend go out and read this. Definitely don't go buy it as a hard copy. Get it from the library if you want to read it. That'd be my recommendation. All right. That's actually everything that I read and plan to read in February. Great. Happy, like I said, a 5-star read, a 3-star read, a fantasy novel. I read a romance. I mean, very eclectic. Read nonfiction for the BookTube Prize. So I'm very pleased with where everything ended up. For the TBR Tackle and the Spin was just done on the 1st, and so I have an update for my TBR Tackle pile. There are 10 books that were left, and the first spin that they did today was to take the book with the longest number of pages, which had me nervous a little bit, and swap it out for something else. And so that is what I have done. The book that I am removing with the largest number of pages is Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingsolver, which is actually perfect because I had forgotten that I was supposed to do this as a buddy read with Heidi from My Reading Life. So now that it's off of the TBR Tackle and the Spin, I can make those plans to buddy read this with her and not have it be a spur of the moment, hey, we're reading it in April kind of a thing. So I'm very happy that I'm taking this one off. I was worried that the prom this month would be read the longest book on your TBR, and I was going to just basically be panicking. But the book that I'm swapping it out with is going to end up being a new to me author, and the new to me author is going to end up being this one, which is Now Is Not the Time to Panic by Kevin Wilson. This is a signed edition I bought at independent bookstore when I went on a visit a few weeks ago, but this is the one that I am replacing with Demon Copperhead with. I updated my spin shelf on Goodreads, and Demon Copperhead has been removed and this one has been added. The spin also happened today. So that was the first spin, and then they spun again, and the prompt was to select the book with the prettiest cover. And oh, I didn't even have to think twice about this one. This came like instantly when I thought about all of the covers I have, and it's this one, Hester by Laurie, Lico, Albanese. I mean, come on. Oh, so beautiful with the flowers, and it's raised on here as well. And it's just lovely. I can't wait to read this one. I'm so incredibly happy that the spin turned out the way that it did. It made my whole schedule just kind of align. And now I get to read Hester in March. So this one will be added to my official TBR in March. And I can't wait to read this one. And that is it. But I just want to hold this book some more because it's so pretty. Okay, I'm done. But with that, that is all I have for you today. Thank you so much again for watching. Please leave me a comment down below if you've read any of these books. Please tell me definitely what you thought of A Fine Balance. I loved it. I think as of right now, it'll be in my top 10 for the next 100 books. I can't imagine that it'll drop out of that, but we'll see. But as always, like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, everyone, thanks. Bye.